Commander Vex-Kori clicked his mandibles in what his species called satisfaction, though any human observing would have mistaken it for the sound of someone cracking knuckles while extremely annoyed. The bridge of the Galactic Dominion's flagship, Eternal Conquest, hummed with the quiet efficiency of a war machine that had never known defeat. Well, that was about to change. "Sir, we're approaching the third planet from their yellow star," announced Lieutenant Zix-9, his voice carrying that particular tone of boredom that came from conquering 73 civilizations without breaking a sweat. "Initial scans show they call it Earth." Vex-Kori's four eyes rolled in perfect synchronization. "Earth? How original. Let me guess. They probably call their moon Moon, and their sun Sun, right?" "Actually, sir," Zix-9 paused, checking his readings again. "That's exactly what they call them." The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle whirring of life support systems, and what sounded suspiciously like someone trying not to laugh. Vex-Kori's tail twitched, which in his culture was the equivalent of face-palming. "Wonderful. Just wonderful. We're about to conquer a species so creatively bankrupt they named their planet Dirt in their own language." He turned to address the entire bridge crew. "Anyone want to place bets on how long this takes? I'm thinking maybe 3 rotations, tops." The betting pool that immediately formed would later become the stuff of military legend, though not for the reasons anyone expected. Tactical Officer Nim-7 raised one of her 6 arms. "Sir, preliminary intelligence suggests they've achieved basic spaceflight, nuclear capabilities, and something they call social media. Should we be concerned about that last one?" "Social media." Vex-Kori's laugh was a sound like grinding metal mixed with helium. "What's next? Are you going to tell me they've weaponized their entertainment industry?" The uncomfortable silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Nim-7 frantically checking her data pad. "Sir, there's something else you should know about their defensive capabilities." "Oh, this should be good," Vex-Kori interrupted, settling into his command throne with the confidence of someone who had never encountered anything more dangerous than a strongly worded diplomatic protest. "What do they have? Plasma cannons? Quantum shields? Don't tell me they've discovered how to fold space-time into origami." "Well, sir, they appear to have something called Florida Man." The bridge erupted in confused chittering, clicking, and what passed for alien laughter. Vex-Kori wiped moisture from his primary eyes, struggling to contain his amusement. "Florida Man? Is that some sort of super soldier program?" "The data is confusing, sir. Near as we can tell, it's a subspecies of human that seems to defy all known laws of physics, logic, and self-preservation. The reports we've intercepted are disturbing." Vex-Kori leaned forward, suddenly interested. "Define disturbing." Nim-7's voice took on the tone of someone reading a particularly unbelievable fairy tale. "Well, according to their news archives, in the past cycle alone, Florida Man has wrestled alligators while intoxicated, used explosive devices to catch fish, attempted to teach bears how to perform synchronized swimming, and somehow got into a custody battle with a traffic cone." The bridge fell silent again, this time with a different quality of quiet. It was the kind of silence that occurs when an entire room full of beings realizes they might have missed something important. "A traffic cone," Vex-Kori repeated slowly. "Yes, sir. And apparently, the traffic cone won." "Right. Well, I'm sure that's just an isolated incident. What else do they have for defenses?" Intelligence Specialist Kark-12 cleared his throat, or at least made the sound his species used to indicate incoming bad news. "Sir, we've also detected something called Karen. Initial reports suggest this entity can speak to managers across dimensional barriers, and has been known to return merchandise to stores that never sold said merchandise in the first place. And then there's something called Chuck Norris, though our computers keep crashing every time we try to analyze the data files about him. Vex-Kori's confidence was beginning to show hairline cracks, like a dam that had just noticed a few too many beavers in the area. Surely you're exaggerating. Sir, there are documented cases of Chuck Norris doing push-ups so intense that he pushed the Earth away from the sun by several inches, causing winter. That's scientifically impossible. Yes, sir. That's what makes it terrifying. The Eternal Conquest continued its approach to Earth, and as they drew closer, more intelligence reports began flooding in. Each one was more bewildering than the last. Sir, we've intercepted communications about something called Australian wildlife. Apparently, their entire southern continent is populated by creatures that evolution designed while having a particularly bad day. How bad could it be? They have spiders the size of dinner plates, snakes that can kill you in 17 different ways, and something called a drop bear that even the humans pretend doesn't exist because acknowledging it would apparently cause mass hysteria. Vex-Kori was beginning to develop what humans would recognize as a nervous tic. His left antenna kept twitching every few seconds, and his secondary stomach was making sounds that suggested it was considering relocating to a different star system entirely. "What about their military?" he asked, hoping for some good news. "Surely their armed forces are conventionally organized." Communications Officer Blep 4 looked up from his console with the expression of someone who had just received word that the universe had decided to switch to a different set of physics without prior notice. "Sir, we've intercepted internal military communications. Apparently, their Marines eat something called crayons, for reasons that remain unclear. Their Navy has a tradition involving something called crossing the line, that seems to involve ridiculous costumes and ritual humiliation. And their Air Force. Well, sir, their Air Force has a documented history of losing nuclear weapons." Losing nuclear weapons? How does one lose a nuclear weapon? According to the reports, sir, it's surprisingly easy. They call them broken arrows, and apparently it happens often enough that they have a specific term for it. The commander's confidence wasn't just showing cracks anymore. It was beginning to resemble a jigsaw puzzle that someone had given up on halfway through. Right. Well, I'm sure their leadership is more conventional. About that, sir. Quark 12's voice had taken on the quality of someone delivering news about a terminal diagnosis. We've been monitoring their political systems. In the past few cycles, their leaders have included a reality television personality, someone who claimed to have invented the internet, and a person who once got into a public argument with a social media algorithm and lost. Lost to an algorithm? Yes, sir. The algorithm apparently had better foreign policy credentials. As if the universe had decided that Vex-Kori hadn't suffered enough, the ship's AI chose that moment to chime in with its own contribution to the growing pile of concerning intelligence. "Commander, I've been analyzing their entertainment media for strategic insights. I have discovered something called action movies, where humans regularly survive explosions, falls from great heights, and exposure to vacuum without apparent lasting effects. Should I assume these are training documentaries?" "No, those are fiction, you mechanical idiot." "Understood, sir. However, I have also analyzed something called reality television, and I must report that the humans' actual behavior is significantly more unbelievable than their fictional entertainment." Vex-Kori felt, what he was pretty sure was the beginning of a stress-induced molting episode. His species only molted when faced with truly existential threats, and the last time it had happened was when they'd encountered a black hole that had somehow learned to tap dance. "Sir," Nim7 announced, her voice carrying a note of confusion that would have been amusing under different circumstances, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface." "Already? We haven't even announced our presence yet." "Yes, sir. That's what makes it concerning. The transmission appears to be coming from someone called Gary from accounting." "Gary from accounting?" "Yes, sir. He says he's been expecting us and wants to know if we're interested in extended warranty coverage for our spacecraft." The bridge fell silent once more, but this time it was the silence of beings who were beginning to suspect that the universe might have a sense of humor and that they were about to become the punchline. "Put him on screen," Vex-Kori said, with the tone of someone who had decided that if reality was going to stop making sense, he might as well get a front-row seat to the show. The main viewer flickered to life, revealing a perfectly ordinary-looking human male sitting in what appeared to be a standard office cubicle. He was wearing a tie that seemed to have been designed by someone who had only heard colors described in passing, and his smile had the quality of something that had been practiced in front of a mirror for years, but had never quite achieved authenticity. "Greetings, alien invaders," Gary said, with the enthusiasm of someone selling time shares. "I'm Gary, and I couldn't help but notice you folks approaching our little planet. Now, before you get started with all that conquering and whatnot, I wanted to reach out and see if you might be interested in protecting your investment." Vex-Kori blinked all four eyes in sequence, a sure sign of confusion among his people. "Investment? Well, sure. You're about to conquer Earth, right? That makes it your property. And as your property, you're going to want to make sure it's properly protected against asteroids, solar flares, and unexpected visits from other alien species. That's where Earth Defense Extended Warranty comes in." This can't be real," Vex-Kori muttered to himself. "Oh, it's very real, sir," Gary continued, somehow having heard him despite the communication channel supposedly being one way. "And if you act now in the next 30 minutes, I can offer you our premium package, which includes protection against natural disasters, unnatural disasters, supernatural disasters, and what we like to call Tuesday-level weirdness." Tuesday-level weirdness? You know, the usual stuff. Florida man wrestling a hurricane, someone accidentally inventing time travel while trying to fix their microwave, that sort of thing. Happens more often than you'd think. Lieutenant Zix-9 leaned over to whisper to his commander. "Sir, should I prepare the death rays?" "I'm beginning to think death rays might not be sufficient," Vex-Kori whispered back. Gary, somehow still hearing them, laughed with the sound of someone who had spent years in customer service and had long ago achieved a zen-like state of accepting the impossible. "Oh, you don't want to use death rays on Earth, sir. We've had 3 different species try that approach. 2 of them are now running food trucks in Portland, and the 3rd one started a very successful YouTube channel about sustainable agriculture." "What happened to them?" Vex-Kori found himself asking, despite every instinct telling him not to encourage this conversation. "Well, they found out that death rays don't work very well on humans. We tend to either absorb the energy and use it to power our coffee makers, or we reflect it back using mirrors, hubcaps, and, in one memorable case, a very shiny bald man named Pete, who happened to be sunbathing at exactly the right angle." The commander felt his confidence pack its bags and leave for a nice retirement on a peaceful moon somewhere far, far away. "This is impossible," "Sir," Gary said, and his tone shifted slightly, becoming something that was somehow both reassuring and deeply unsettling. "You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means." The reference went over Vex-Kori's head entirely, but something about the way Gary said it made his combat instincts start screaming warnings in 17 different languages, none of which he recognized. "Now," Gary continued, his salesman smile returning, "about that extended warranty. I can see you're the decisive type, so let me sweeten the deal. Sign up today, and I'll throw in our special Humanity Interaction Training Package absolutely free. Trust me, you're going to need it." "Why would we need training to interact with humans?" Gary's smile became something that would later haunt Vex-Kori's dreams for the rest of his unnaturally long life. "Well, sir, let me put it this way. Last week, one of our rocket scientists accidentally solved quantum mechanics while trying to figure out why his socks keep disappearing in the laundry. The week before that, a kindergarten teacher in Ohio discovered a new form of mathematics while trying to divide snacks equally among her students. And just yesterday, a man in Texas invented faster-than-light travel because he was tired of being late for work. That's not how science works. Sir, with respect, you've been conquering species who follow the normal rules of science. We're humans. We don't really do normal." Vex-Kori stared at the screen for what felt like several geological epochs, though his chronometer insisted it had only been 37 seconds. Gary from accounting continued smiling with the patience of someone who had spent decades dealing with confused customers, alien or otherwise. "I think," Vex-Kori said slowly, "we need to reconsider our approach." "Excellent decision, sir." Gary clapped his hands together. "Now, while you're reconsidering, might I suggest our Peaceful First Contact package? It includes a complimentary fruit basket, a guidebook titled "So You Want to Visit Earth Without Getting Turned into a Meme?" and a personal consultation with Dr. Sandra Martinez, our leading expert in interspecies diplomatic relations. "Dr. Martinez? Oh, she's wonderful. She once negotiated a peace treaty between two warring alien factions using nothing but interpretive dance and a box of donuts. Turned out they were fighting over a misunderstanding about pronoun usage." Lieutenant Zix-9 whispered urgently to his commander. "Sir, perhaps we should just move on to the next planet. I hear the beings on Kepler 442b are very reasonable." Before Vex-Kori could respond, Gary's voice cut through their whispered conversation. "Oh, I wouldn't recommend Kepler 442b right now. The Zephyrians just started their mating season, and trust me, you do not want to be in the neighborhood when that happens. Last species that tried to invade during their reproductive cycle ended up being forced to judge a talent show that lasted 14 standard months." "How could you possibly know about our invasion schedule?" Vex-Kori demanded. "Well, sir, it's all over space Twitter. Alien Invasion, Earth 2025 has been trending for weeks. The betting pools are quite extensive. Current odds favor you lasting about 6 hours before either joining our species as productive members of society or opening a small business in suburban Minneapolis." The bridge crew exchanged glances that conveyed volumes of concern. Space Twitter was supposed to be classified military intelligence, not public entertainment. "Sir," Communications Officer Blep 4 announced with the tone of someone delivering increasingly surreal news updates, "I'm receiving multiple transmissions from across the planet. It appears humans have been preparing." "Preparing weapons?" "No, sir. Preparing welcome parties. Also, someone named Jake Paul wants to challenge our entire invasion fleet to a boxing match for charity." The broadcast rights alone are apparently worth billions of their currency units. Vex-Kori felt what remained of his military confidence crumble into dust and blow away in a gentle breeze that existed only in his increasingly fractured psyche. "Show me the other transmissions." The screen split into multiple feeds, each one more bewildering than the last. In New York, a group of street vendors had set up stands selling authentic alien food, which appeared to be hot dogs with green food coloring. In Tokyo, a game show host was explaining the rules of something called Alien Invasion Bingo. In London, someone had started a queue for first contact registration, despite no one being entirely sure what they were queuing for, but it was the feed from somewhere called Kansas that made Vex-Kori question everything he thought he knew about warfare. "Sir," announced the human on screen, an elderly woman wearing an apron that declared her to be someone's grandmother. "I'm Martha Thompson, president of the Topeka Galactic Welcome Committee. We've been expecting you folks, and I just wanted you to know that we've prepared a proper welcome. There's fresh coffee, homemade cookies, and my famous casserole. Now, I know you're probably thinking about conquering us and all, but have you considered just staying for dinner instead?" "This is psychological warfare," Vex-Kori muttered. "It has to be." Martha Thompson somehow heard him and laughed with the sound of someone who had raised 5 children and was therefore immune to all forms of intimidation. "Oh, honey, this isn't warfare. This is hospitality. You'd be amazed what a good meal can accomplish. Why, just last month, we had a visit from some lovely folks from the Andromeda Galaxy. They came here planning to strip mine our planet. But after Martha's pot roast, they decided to open an organic farming cooperative instead." "That's impossible." "You keep saying that word, dear. Are you sure you know what it means?" The second Princess Bride reference of the day was not lost on the humans watching the broadcast, though it flew completely over the aliens' heads like a particularly low-flying aircraft carrying a cargo of confusion. Intelligence Specialist Clark 12 looked up from his console with the expression of someone who had just discovered that mathematics had decided to take a vacation and been replaced by interpretive dance. "Sir, I've been analyzing global communications. It appears that news of our arrival has spread across their entire planet in approximately 17 minutes. Their response has been unprecedented." Define unprecedented. "Well, sir, a group of scientists in Geneva have apparently solved 3 major physics problems while trying to calculate the best way to communicate with us. A kindergarten class in Canada has written us a song, and someone in Brazil has already started a petition to make us honorary citizens of Earth, despite the fact that we haven't even landed yet." "Sir," Tactical Officer NIM-7 added, her voice carrying a note of professional bewilderment, "I've been monitoring their defensive preparations. They don't appear to be mobilizing any military forces." "That's good, right?" "I'm not sure, sir. Instead, they seem to be mobilizing something they call social media influencers. Initial intelligence suggests these beings possess the ability to shape reality through the power of carefully filtered photographs and strongly worded opinions." On the screen, Gary from accounting cleared his throat. "Speaking of which, sir, I should probably mention that your invasion attempt has already been turned into a TikTok dance. It's gone viral. Current view count is approximately 847 million and climbing." Vex-Kori's species didn't have a concept equivalent to a headache, but if they had, he would have been experiencing one of legendary proportions. How is that even possible? We haven't done anything yet. Oh, that's the beauty of predictive social media, sir. Humans are remarkably good at anticipating future events and turning them into entertainment content. There's already merchandise. As if summoned by the mention of commerce, another transmission came through. This one featured a cheerful human female standing in front of what appeared to be a small manufacturing facility. "Hi there, I'm Lisa Chen, owner of Chen's Custom Embroidery here in Portland, Oregon. I just wanted to let you folks know that we've got a full line of Earth Invasion 2025 t-shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs ready to go. We also do custom work, so if you'd like anything with your ship's logo or your species name, just let us know. We offer bulk discounts for orders over 100 pieces." "They're selling merchandise," Vex-Kori said, in the tone of someone stating an obvious but incomprehensible fact. "About their own conquest." "Sir," Gary added helpfully, "I should mention that the humans have also established a crowdfunding campaign to help with the cost of feeding and housing you and your crew during your stay. They've already raised enough money to rent you a very nice hotel in Orlando, complete with theme park passes and a complimentary breakfast buffet. We don't want hotel accommodations. We want to conquer your planet." "Oh, I understand completely, sir. That's actually very thoughtful of you. But have you considered the logistics? Conquering a planet is a lot of work. There's paperwork, infrastructure management, dealing with local customs and regulations. It's really quite a headache. Wouldn't you rather just enjoy a nice vacation instead?" The eternal conquest continued its approach to Earth, and with each passing moment, the situation became more surreal. Reports continued flooding in from across the planet. A group of amateur astronomers in Scotland had apparently calculated the aliens' exact arrival time and were planning a welcoming ceremony. A cooking show in France had dedicated an entire episode to preparing meals for our new galactic neighbors. And somewhere in Australia, a wildlife expert was explaining on live television how to safely interact with extraterrestrial visitors, using techniques normally reserved for approaching wild crocodiles. "Sir," Lieutenant Zix-9 announced, with the careful tone of someone delivering news that defied all known laws of cause and effect, "we're receiving a transmission from their global defense network. Finally! Some proper military resistance." "Not exactly, sir. It's actually from someone called the General Manager of Earth. She wants to discuss our customer service experience." The transmission opened to reveal a professional-looking human woman sitting behind a desk in what appeared to be a standard office environment. Her nameplate read, "Rebecca Rodriguez, General Manager." "Hello there," she said, with the practiced warmth of someone who had spent years in customer service management. "I'm Rebecca, and I understand you folks are interested in conquering Earth. That's wonderful. We love having visitors. However, I wanted to reach out personally to make sure your experience with us exceeds your expectations." Vex-Kori was beginning to suspect that he had somehow died during the journey, and this was his species' version of an afterlife designed specifically to torment military commanders. "We don't want customer service. We want conquest." "I completely understand, sir, and I want to make sure we provide you with exactly the conquest experience you're looking for. However, I did want to mention that our current conquest package does come with a few unique features that you might not be expecting." "Such as?" Rebecca smiled with the patience of someone explaining basic concepts to a particularly confused intern. "Well, for starters, conquering Earth comes with automatic enrollment in our Global Responsibility Program. That means you're now responsible for managing 8 billion humans, which includes dealing with tax season, coordinating traffic patterns in major metropolitan areas, and explaining to everyone why pizza delivery times can vary." The bridge of the eternal conquest had fallen completely silent, except for the sound of various crew members quietly contemplating career changes. Additionally, Rebecca continued, conquest of Earth includes mandatory participation in our democratic processes. That means town hall meetings, jury duty, and explaining to your constituents why the space program budget went to building a giant statue of the world's largest ball of yarn instead of developing faster-than-light communication systems. "This is insane," Vex-Kori whispered. "Oh, and there's one more thing," Rebecca added, her smile taking on a quality that would later inspire nightmares in 17 different species. Conquering Earth automatically makes you responsible for dealing with the humans' extended family throughout the galaxy. Extended family? Oh yes. Humans have been spreading throughout the universe for quite some time now. There are human colonies on over 400 planets, and they all stay in touch. Family reunions alone require coordinating logistics across multiple star systems. And don't get me started on the holiday card mailing lists. At this point, Vex-Kori's survival instincts, which had served him well through 73 previous conquests, finally managed to penetrate his shocked consciousness and began screaming warnings in a frequency only detectable by beings in extreme distress. "Sir," NIM-7 announced quietly, "long-range sensors are detecting something approaching from the outer system." "Another defense fleet?" "No, sir. It appears to be a food truck." On the main screen, Gary from accounting grinned. "Oh, that'll be Tony's Galactic grilled cheese. He does excellent work. Makes a mean, alien-friendly sandwich, too. No ingredients that'll dissolve your digestive system or cause interdimensional hiccups." "How is a food truck traveling through space?" "Well, sir, that's actually a funny story. Tony used to be an engineer for NASA, but he decided he could make a bigger impact on interstellar relations through the power of perfectly grilled cheese sandwiches. He's been mediating first contact scenarios for years now. Very effective approach, actually." The food truck, which appeared to be a modified spacecraft, with Tony's Galactic grilled cheese painted in cheerful letters across its hull, pulled alongside the Eternal Conquest. A docking tube extended automatically, and before anyone could object, a cheerful human voice came over the intercom. "System. Hey there, folks. I'm Tony Martinez, and I understand you're having a bit of a first contact situation here. I've got fresh sandwiches, cold drinks, and a whole lot of experience helping people work through these kinds of cultural misunderstandings. Mind if I come aboard?" Vex-Kori looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Every single one of them wore the expression of beings who had signed up for a straightforward military conquest, and had instead found themselves in the middle of something that defied all known categories of experience. "Let him aboard," Vex-Kori said finally. "At this point, I'm willing to try anything." 20 minutes later, the bridge of the Eternal Conquest had been transformed into an impromptu dining area. Tony Martinez, a friendly middle-aged human wearing an apron that declared him to be the universe's okayest sandwich artist, was serving grilled cheese sandwiches to a crew of bewildered alien warriors while explaining the finer points of human civilization. "See, the thing about humans," Tony said, flipping a sandwich with the casual skill of someone who had perfected his craft through years of practice, "is that we've never really been big on the whole conquest thing. I mean, sure, we tried it for a while, but it turns out it's a lot more work than it's worth. These days, we prefer collaborative approaches to problem solving." "But your species has a documented history of warfare," Vex-Kori protested, though his argument was somewhat undermined by the fact that he was speaking around a mouthful of what he had to admit was an exceptionally good grilled cheese sandwich. "Oh, absolutely," Tony agreed cheerfully. "We were terrible at getting along with each other for the longest time. But then we discovered something that changed everything." "What?" Tony's smile was the smile of someone sharing a profound secret. We realized that the universe is a really, really big place, and there's room for everyone to do their own thing without bothering anyone else. Also, we discovered that most problems can be solved with the right combination of good food, honest conversation, and a willingness to admit when you've made a mistake. Lieutenant Zix-9, who was working on his second sandwich, looked up with the expression of someone experiencing a philosophical revelation. But what about territorial expansion, resource acquisition, the basic drives that motivate all space-faring civilizations? "Oh, we still do all that stuff," Tony replied. "We've just found better ways to go about it. Instead of conquering planets, we ask if they need help with anything. Instead of taking resources, we set up trade agreements. Instead of forcing other species to adopt our way of life, we learn from each other and figure out new ways to make everyone's life better." "That's impossible," Vex-Kori said automatically, though his heart wasn't really in it anymore. "You know," Tony said thoughtfully, "I've been doing this for about 15 years now, and every species I meet says the same thing. That's impossible. But then they try a grilled cheese sandwich, we sit down and talk about it, and somehow it stops being impossible and starts being just different." As if to prove his point, Communications Officer Blep-4 looked up from his sandwich with the expression of someone who had just discovered that the universe operated on entirely different principles than he had previously understood. "Sir, I've been thinking, instead of conquering Earth, what if we asked them to join the Galactic Dominion as equal partners?" The suggestion hung in the air like a revolutionary concept that might actually make sense, which was disturbing to everyone involved. "Equal partners," Vex-Kori repeated. "Well, sir, consider the advantages. They clearly have capabilities we don't understand. Their approach to problem-solving is unique. And frankly, after this conversation, I'm not entirely sure we could conquer them even if we tried. They turned our invasion into a business opportunity and a social media event," NIM7 added, "before we even got here. And somehow made us feel guilty about the whole thing while offering to help us find alternative career paths," Quark-12 contributed. Vex-Kori looked around the bridge at his crew, all of whom were peacefully eating grilled cheese sandwiches and looking more relaxed than they had in years of military service. Outside the viewports, Earth continued its serene rotation, completely unperturbed by the presence of what was supposed to be a conquering fleet. "Tony," he said finally, "what would it actually involve if we, hypothetically speaking, decided not to conquer Earth?" Tony's smile was the smile of someone who had been waiting for exactly that question. "Well, first we'd need to call off the invasion, obviously. Then there's some paperwork to fill out with the Galactic Ethics Committee. After that, we could set up some cultural exchange programs, maybe some trade agreements, and I know several universities that would love to have alien guest lecturers." "Guest lecturers?" "Oh yes. Humans are incredibly curious about other species and cultures. You'd probably be overwhelmed with speaking invitations. There's also a good chance someone would want to turn your story into a movie, though you'd retain creative control and a percentage of the profits." 1 year later, Commander Vex-Kori, now Professor Vex-Kori of the Comparative Xenobiology Department at Harvard University, stood in front of a lecture hall full of eager human students. His course, Introduction to Galactic Civilizations and Why Conquest is More Trouble Than It's Worth, had a waiting list of over 3,000 students. "And that," he concluded his lecture, "is how humans convinced an entire invasion fleet to abandon conquest in favor of higher education and interspecies cooperation." A student in the front row raised her hand hand. "Professor, what happened to Gary from accounting?" Vex-Kori's laugh was warm and genuine, completely unlike the grinding mechanical sound it had been a year earlier. "Gary is now the Director of Intergalactic Customer Relations for the United Earth Government. He's prevented 17 potential conflicts through the strategic application of extended warranty offers and customer service excellence." Another student called out, "And Tony?" "Tony's Galactic Grilled Cheese now operates a chain of restaurants across 47 star systems. He's widely regarded as the galaxy's foremost expert in diplomatic cuisine." As his students filed out of the lecture hall, chattering excitedly about the assignment he'd just given them, a comparative analysis of conflict resolution strategies across different species, Vex-Kori reflected on how much his life had changed. He still received regular reports from other galactic Dominion fleets, and invariably, they all ended the same way. Attempted conquest of Earth. Mission failed successfully. Request permission to enroll in their educational exchange program. The humans, it turned out, had a particularly effective strategy for dealing with would-be conquerors. They simply offered them something better to do instead. And somehow, impossibly, it worked every single time.